Binge the full week of The Ray Taylor Show ad-free over at inspireddisorder.com/plus.
This is The Ray Taylor Show.
Welcome to The Ray Taylor Show, where I bring you the reviews on the latest movies and TV shows, as well as classic and foreign films. I'm your host, Ray Taylor, and on this podcast, I'll be talking about all things film and television. Whether you're looking for a new show to binge, or want to know if that blockbuster is worth the trip to the theater, or just want to hear my thoughts on a classic or foreign film, I've got you covered. So join me every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for new episodes, and let us dive into the world of film and television together. On this episode, I am talking about Dave, Season 3, the FXX/Hulu show that is created by Dave Burd and Jeff Schaefer. It stars David Burd as Lil Dicky, Andrew Santino, GaTa, Taylor Misiak, Christina Coe, Travis Bennett, and Chloe Bennett, not related, along with a lot of other great cameos that are a welcomed addition to any season of Dave. This is the third season, as I said before. I also do a recap podcast of the show Dave, which this will be coming out on the last episode of that to close that out, to review this. Not 100% sure if this will be the final season of Dave. Generally, how they have gone is there's usually a good amount of time that passes before there's any kind of announcement that a new season will be. This one was ended in a way that it could come back, but at the same time, the way this ended did kind of show the different characters on their paths that are slowly kind of going away from what started as this crew, all these supportive friends of Dave, kind of doing their own thing and going their own way at the end of this season. So we'll see. No idea yet. But this season, Season 3, Dave is going on tour with his crew, with his gang, after the release of his album Peanut that came out last season. Dave travels the country looking for love, while Emma is creating a documentary about this journey for him looking for love. GaTa taking advantage of every opportunity that comes his way, somebody who's thirsty and hungry for fame and to gain fame, while also being Dave's hype man, while also being a rapper himself. And Mike, Dave's manager, trying to manage the chaos that is Dave and his career, as well as Els, who is on the trip and has a lot riding on the success of the album and the success of Dave. And for those that don't know, Dave Burd, a.k.a. Lil Dicky, a rapper, somebody who has that's show loosely based on Dave Burd himself and his career as Lil Dicky, and in this show has kind of shown his rise to fame, where the first season was a lot of Dave just trying to get eyeballs on things. The second season was him struggling to make an album, dealing with creative blocks, and dealing with just understanding who he is as an artist in a lot of ways. This season is Dave kind of being confronted with the fans that love his work, and him maybe having second thoughts about the people who like his work, which a lot of his work is based on his biggest insecurities, mainly his penis, and using those insecurities as his superpower, using humor as a way to bring up issues and talk about serious things, but dismantling it in a way. So it's been a great season, right? This is still one of my favorite shows. This show is funny. It has moments that are dramatic. It has moments that are stressful. Definitely every single episode this season had a moment where I was stressed out, just having a feeling I knew where things were going to go. Many times I was wrong. Sometimes I was right. There was an aspect of this season that I was right, and it just took to the last episode for that premonition to come true. This show also shines a lot of light on a lot of my own personal faults that I share with Dave as a creative person, as a person who has tried to be in relationships, who's failed in relationships, who's trying to juggle the idea of being a creative person, trying to get myself out there, along with trying to be the right person for a relationship to my partner. So the fact that I relate to Dave in a lot of ways is one of the reasons I love this show so much. Really shining a light on my own faults and my own problems, and being able to see that in somebody else helps me kind of identify and realize that, I've got a lot of problems, and there's a reason why I'm single. I do highly recommend this show. This season, not quite as introspective as the last season. The last season they got dark. They got a lot darker in the last season, where the first season, a lot of funny. Every episode in season 1 ended with a great punchline. There was a lot of comedy. There was a little bit of sadness towards the end of season 1 when Dave and Allie break up. Somebody that I loved Dave with in this season. Robin is that person that I loved Dave with. And, I should say, if you're watching this review, I would imagine you've seen Dave before. Maybe you're interested in it. You want to know what's happening in season 3. I will be talking about spoilers. Obviously, I've already mentioned the fact that it's a comedy show, so spoilers. It is a narrative that, builds on itself. It's not like a Seinfeld where it's individual stories in every episode, although there are individual stories. But we are following Dave and the other people, his friends, and seeing how those things play out over time. So I will be spoiling and talking about the previous seasons, and I'm just going to give a spoiler warning now. I'm going to be talking about everything that happens in this season. So, of course, I love this show. If it sounds interesting, there's parts of it that almost feel like Entourage in a way, but far less douchebag, even though I did like Entourage. This is a lot more funny, a lot more self-referential, a lot more making fun. Like, a lot of it is showing and making fun of Dave's shortcomings as a person in relationships, as a person in friendships, as a person in the world who functions and has his own problems. So I do love this show, but I'm going to be talking about this season in depth. Obviously, I did, episode by episode recaps of every single episode of this entire show. So I will be getting into details of everything. So just so you're warned, you will be spoiled. I'd highly recommend checking the show out. It's a great show, short episodes. They're like half-hour long episodes, 8 to 10 episodes per season, I believe. And this is only the 3rd season. I hope the show comes back. I want more of this show. I think it feels like this season they finally hit their groove. Where it's like the first season was a lot of comedy. The second season got really dark, but I really kind of loved it. Second season in a lot of ways. Also was very surreal at moments in the second season, which I loved as well. And this season felt like it found a balance. The season finale of this season was amazing, as all of them are. The last season finale of season 2 blew me away, made me cry. This one did not make me cry at all. Like I remember last time I reviewed season 2, I was crying while talking about the very end of season 2. I will not be doing any of that in this episode, which is very different emotionally, because this show didn't get at those emotions in the same way. And because of that, I think that's why I like the second season more, even though I think a little bit more turbulent. But I think they found a good balance in this season, and they've hit their stride, and I love these characters, and I really want this show to keep going. But we will see. Who knows? It could easily be over with this. So spoiler warning. So great episodes. Let me see. I love the supporting cast. Anytime we get to see more of Mike or Emma or Els, any of them, GaTa's always amazing as well. He's always like kind of a standout in all these seasons. Of course, every episode has Dave in it. It felt like they experimented a lot in the second season, but this one they still did some fun things. Like there's an episode called, was it Hershey? No, Harrison Ave, that feels like they watched The Bear on FX, and that stress, high, fast-paced, kind of stressful, like kinetic energy was really present in Harrison Ave, where Dave and Emma are trying to direct a music video for Dave at his parents' home in Philadelphia. A great episode. And just another one of those things. Like, Dave is like, despite the fact that he is the main character, he is by far the most unlikable character in the show. Everybody else is likable. And everybody else has problems with Dave, right? You see how he treats people and just how just very self-centered and self-focused he is on himself. But despite that, I think there's still like he still has like he's willing to listen at times, and he's willing to. I mean, he's the guy that created the show, and he's making himself look bad. And part of that is why I'm able to relate to him so much, because he's so willing to just show how bad people can be without meaning to be bad. It's not like he's intentionally being vindictive or attacking people. It's just he's so singularly focused on achieving this goal and making his dream a reality that it doesn't suit, it's not indicative, it's not conducive to making good friendships or having good relationships all the time, right? So a lot of it is Dave trying to understand how to navigate and balance all of these things, and trying to understand what's important to him, which the end of this season was a big wake up to see what's really important to Dave, in a way that I think is probably the far more honest way, despite how much people may not like it. So you see in this season, Dave, his next level of his career, seeing what his fans are like, getting to meet his fans on tour around the country, discovering how the fantasy of the perfect woman will never exist in reality. We see Emma growing as an artist, her pursuing her passions to be a director, directing his music video, and of course the documentary of the tour. We get to know GaTa more as he reveals more things that he's struggling with, which is a big aspect of GaTa in the first season, him revealing that he's bipolar. Big episode on that. And then even in this season, it's like things build up with GaTa, and then all of a sudden it's just like a dam breaks, and we get so much more information about who GaTa is and what he's struggling with. And I think, a lot of these things, people dealing with their imperfections, is part of what makes them so lovable. You have Els in this season riding on the hope that Dave's record that he produced and will only really get paid if it does well, because he gets royalties based on that. And him kind of desperate for these things to work out as well. And then you have Mike, his manager, trying to keep track of everything while also finding love himself, but like realizing how difficult it is to control Dave, because Dave is like a perfectionist when it comes to everything and holds everybody to an unrealistic standard. And Mike somehow has to manage that and like have the illusion of control, at least. And not only do we see like the crew in different states, like literally in different states of the country, while they're on tour, but we also see how Allie joins the gang as well. When she comes in on the Wisconsin episode, she's from Wisconsin. When Dave's in Wisconsin on tour, she flies out to hang out with her roommate Emma, to hang out with her friend and former boyfriend Dave, and also to have a romantic hookup with somebody from college. But then I love her as a character, and that episode is great. She definitely held a mirror up to some of Dave's faults, expecting perfection out of people, forgiving people for not being perfect. And then seeing how she gets folded into the crew even more in the Met Gala episode was great to see as well. Let's take a quick break from this episode because I want to promote. Are you looking for a way to take your love of The Ray Taylor Show to the next level? Look no further than Inspired Disorder Plus. As a member, you'll get access to a whole host of amazing perks, including the full week of shows, ad-free in both audio and video versions, a live painting archive, early access to the many faces, members-only discounts and deals, a podcast back catalog with over 600 episodes. But that's not all. As a member, you'll get access to my personal blog as well as my creative writing. You'll also get the chance to ask me anything you want. With all of these benefits and more, Inspired Disorder Plus is a must-have for any fan of The Ray Taylor Show. So don't wait. Go sign up now. Head on over to inspireddisorder.com/plus and start enjoying all of the amazing perks of the membership. And now, let's get back to the show. And we also see what happens after the tour. So this season's not just him on tour. There is a point where the bus explodes, but he's like ready to cancel the tour on that episode. But then on R.I.P. Lil Dicky. But the bus explodes, and then it just kind of ends. The next episode, it's just him off of tour, and he's got his house. So part of this season is him on tour. Part of the season is him in his new house in L.A., which is a gorgeous house. And kind of a nice transition for the show. And we also see that in that transition, after having been on tour, seeing how Dave's work is being taken and being run with, and the types of people that like his work, and like how people aren't understanding what he's trying to do, and realizing that you can't choose your fans, and you can't choose how your fans choose to identify or interpret your work. And seeing how that's not cool with him, how people have done that with his work, and him wanting to make a big transition, wanting to rebrand from Lil Dicky, which he doesn't do, but clearly, at least in the first song that he's making after the tour, he's definitely aware and making a point to evolve his sound, which I think any artist in general, whether you're involved in music or any kind of art form, you will change your style, you'll change your voice, you will evolve. Just as you evolve as a person, the things you're interested in your 20s isn't the same thing you're interested in your 40s. So if your career goes long enough, your style and your voice and the things that you create is going to change, just because you're interested in experimenting with new things. Whether you're Lil Dicky or whether you're somebody like one of my favorite bands, the Red Hot Chili Peppers, have evolved drastically over the years. I think they still have their core sound, but they've, you can listen to an album of theirs and you can tell if it's one of their early albums or one of their recent albums, because they've matured. They've been doing music for like 40 years. So of course people change, and Lil Dicky kind of throughout this season has the desire to change his style and to grow as an artist and to move past some of the immature comedic things that are being taken the wrong way from the work that he's done so far. Great episodes, right? There's an episode that feels like a horror film, straight up horror film, which is, I think, the one in Mississippi. The episode titled The Storm. Very horror-themed episode. You have a crazy fan that shows up in Texas, and I thought was going to be a bigger part of that episode, and felt like it would have been so random for that character to have only shown up in Texas when she gives Dave the bust of the cement head of Dave Burd, of Lil Dicky, for that to be her only time. So when she shows up in the finale, I was like, yes! The one thing I was worried about happening actually did happen. And in the craziest way. The crazy fan, stalker fan, obsessed fan episode that is the finale is amazing. And was not expecting that at all, and was not at all expecting the fact that Brad Pitt was going to be that big of a part of the finale. When this finale starts and he's doing the music video with Rachel McAdams, and Brad Pitt has like a short cameo in the music video where he just kind of pops in. It's like very much a Deadpool 2 type of Brad Pitt cameo, just kind of an instant in and out. For then Brad Pitt to be such a big part of that final episode was amazing, and was an amazing episode. Like, they know how to finish a season strong. And I think in season 2 they finished it very emotional. I was in tears. Even recapping that episode, talking about that episode. Where this one, I wasn't emotional in that way, but I was like, it was a high intensity. There was a lot of suspense being built up in that final episode of season 3. Amazing. You know? And also Dave being confronted with how he treats others, being confronted with how he treats Emma and not allowing her to be her own creative self, not trusting in her abilities, which it seemed like he did in the episode Harrison Avenue, where at the end he just allows her to direct the movie however she thinks it's going to work. But then later when she's doing the doc, he again is micromanaging during the edit. And I love that she finally stood up to him and manipulated the situation so that she can maintain control. I loved that. We also see, him dealing with how he treats the loved one, the women in his life, and how he has this ideal of how he wants what he wants and how he treats people, but the reality is so far from the fantasy of that. And I love that this show, at many times, whether it's him and Allie's relationship, whether it's in season 2, the same self-contained episode with him and Doja Cat, or in this season with him and Robin, you see all of these kinds of faults that Dave has, where he is like, all of those things are like, they hit me hard. So yeah, a great episode. The Texas superfan, right? You have with also like the Texas episode's great because you have not only the super fan that thinks that we find out she thinks that she is like the female Dave, but in that same episode they have the fake non-fan that Dave thinks is just a regular girl, but then later realizes that she was actually a super fan and just pretending to be not a fan. Super like awkward and like scary too. Like when he gets stripped down to his scrote guard, which that in and of itself as a part of this show, of this season, was hilarious, and how it comes back again in Wisconsin. But him like leaving that party basically naked except for wearing the scrote guard and running around and having to get clothes and then ending up at the massage parlor where his dream comes true of just having somebody straighten his dick out. Great episode. The Mississippi horror episode is great. You have the Wisconsin episode with Robin, who's like, I didn't think they'd be able to find another character that I loved as much as Allie with Dave. But then Robin comes in, and I loved her as well. And just as painful as it was when Dave and Allie broke up, when the second to last episode in this season where he breaks up with Robin, after seeing the doc and she realized that she's not 100% what he's looking for. Painful. I loved Robin as a character. I loved Robin and Dave together. Like she like was even a better fit. Like to find somebody who's willing to be on the same page as how like weird Dave is, like her being completely cool with Allie being friends, with him getting a real doll. Like she is so accepting of how unique Dave is. Like he passed up an amazing person with Allie and got somehow somebody even better and still didn't appreciate what he had with her. Absolutely brutal. The Atlanta episode with Rick Ross was great. It also, his like paranoia of Killer Mike in that episode was great as well. Him faking the death, right? Him wanting to rebrand, and then even after that, everybody just assuming that he faked his death, that it was some PR stunt. And it's one thing that I thought was going to come back, even in the final episode. Like, there's so many things, I would say, that are kind of left unanswered that were used as a way, as like a misdirect. Like, one of the many things I thought was going to come back and haunt Dave was the superfan, which did come back and haunt Dave, was the video of him and Mike that Emma took of them kind of discussing letting the bus explosion assumption of him dying go to let the numbers explode, which I thought in the final episode that I thought everything was going to come back and haunt Dave. I thought like the white supremacists that like his music in Mississippi, I thought that was going to come back. I thought like there's so many different things I thought was going to come back and haunt him. And I thought that was all going to culminate in the final episode, but it turned into something else, which I actually like what it turned into. But one of the many things, this fake death thing that seems like more and more people, he was never confronted with that. He was never confronted with that being known to people. You also have the doc that Emma was making throughout, her also directing the music video, and Dave trusting her, but then going back to, kind of micromanage the whole situation, and her standing up to him was amazing. Like, I love Emma. And like, even from the beginning, like I've done a lot of this similar work that she's done, graphic design and all that kind of stuff, and had worked with clients that were like Dave, which at least Dave is a creative person, so it's like his input, I would say, is more valuable than just some random business owner that has no artistic ability kind of dictating what they're looking for. But I sympathize with Emma so much in this show. I love her character. And I love that she finally stood up to Dave, and like there was some respect, I think, that Dave showed her, even though he was trying to kind of weasel out of it and used her doc and used her as an excuse when Robin was kind of confronting him with a bunch of stuff. But I loved Emma, and like happy that she kind of got her story, she got some success. The post-tour stuff was a lot of fun. The new house was really cool. Robin's visit, how that was, many things. The visit when she came over and it was Dave's birthday, a very fun, lighthearted episode where kind of everything worked out and it was happy. I really enjoyed that episode. It was just like a very happy, fun, like positive episode, even though there were still moments I was stressed out. You see a secret passageway that comes, a lot of things are set up in the episode with Robin when she comes to visit for the finale. The secret passageway comes back, which I think that was actually the next episode after the house, after we see him get the house, right? The rebirth day, the Met Gala, I think, is the beginning of Met Gala. We see the secret passageway. Then even the real doll. Like all of these things, the fact that he put her pepper spray in the closet, the fact that he owns a crossbow, like all of these things were kind of sprinkled in post-tour that all kind of come into use on the final episode when the stalker shows up. GaTa's big, kind of the things that build up with GaTa, and then there's just the dam breaks, and then we find out that he's bipolar, right? Or we find out in this one that he's got a sex addiction. and then him trying to run with whatever he's given. And with the when he gets the mental health panel, him wanting to win it, and Els being like, you can't win it, but then GaTa wins it and gets this reality show booked, and they end up turning the reality molding the reality show around GaTa, which we never really see how all of those things play out, but he's doing his own things, which is kind of great as well. Love GaTa and love all those things. And it's also funny in the final season, or the final episode, with GaTa and Bella, the crazy fan, how GaTa's like positive about, because she says and does all of the same things Dave does, but contextually is a little bit different. Like, we have no idea what Bella can do, but we've seen Dave can rap. We see he has the ability to do these things, to have that kind of belief. And as far as we know, Bella just has this blind faith that she is a superstar like Dave. We've seen no proof of that. But GaTa just likes her mentality because it reminds him of Dave, who Dave's mentality, as we found out in the documentary, was a big inspiration for GaTa. So it's a great moment in that final episode where GaTa is like a huge fan of Bella, and then in that moment when he finds out that she's crazy and she points the crossbow at him, and he's like, what is going on? Like, his whole reality gets turned upside down. GaTa, great as well. Let's take a quick break from this episode because I want to talk about, are you looking for the perfect gift for that art lover in your life? Look no further than inspireddisorder.com. Our gift cards can be used to purchase original artwork from The Many Faces, a collection of over 2,000 original abstract ink portraits. These one-of-a-kind pieces make for a truly unique and meaningful gift. But that's not all. Our gift cards can also be used to purchase high-quality prints and t-shirts featuring these amazing paintings. Plus, if the recipient is a fan of The Ray Taylor Show, they can use the gift card to purchase merchandise from the show as well. So why wait? Head on over to inspireddisorder.com and purchase a gift card today. Your loved one will be sure to appreciate the thought and creativity behind such a unique gift. Thank you for considering inspireddisorder.com for all of your gift needs. And now, back to the show. Els kind of sad in this season, right? He's broke. There's the episode where he's telling Mike, it's like, I've been borrowing. I can't borrow money from my parents anymore. I can't even afford to get a haircut. Mike hires a barber to give him a haircut. You can tell Mike cares about Els and loves. I mean, everybody loves Els, but like, he's kind of like the guy struggling the most because his success is so tied to how well this album does, where Dave has already been given money from the label, right? He doesn't have to, he's not worried about the sales, where Els only gets paid if the album does well. So, I mean, with the album blowing up because of the fake death, the bus thing, I would assume Els is doing better financially, but still at the end where you're doing the montage, we see where everybody's going. You know, you got Emma kind of in talks with Sundance and moving out, and Allie seems sad that they're no longer going to be roommates. You have Els talking to his parents, telling them that he wants to start a record label, but still borrowing money from them. Kind of a bummer. So he's still kind of in a rough spot. But great. I love all of these characters. Mike kind of finding love. Him and Ava. When he breaks into her house, you know, the consensual, non-consensual thing. And how he turns that into Mike's version of that was great. I love that so much. Just a great moment with Mike, who doesn't necessarily always get that many moments. I think Mike really was a standout in this season. Great characters, great episodes, which each episode seemed to be like one character paired with Dave, except for the final episode, which was Dave, crazy stalker girl Bella, and Brad Pitt were the three main people in the final episode. And also noticeable, which maybe I will notice it when I go back and rewatch the previous two seasons, but definitely in this third season, it was very noticeable the use of score and how that was used well to highlight moments to highlight the tone of moments. Specifically, when I really noticed it was the horror episode, The Storm in Mississippi, which very much had the score of like Hitchcock and different things, very much a horror score. But even in other episodes, like the score was really well utilized, and I just didn't notice it as much previously until this season. So maybe when I go back and watch, it's something that's always been there, and for whatever reason, I'm just noticing it. But the score was almost a character in this season as well. And of course, Dave always finding faults in women, like very similar in a lot of ways to George Costanza and Seinfeld in the show Seinfeld, where like any small imperfection, they will blow up into a red flag. They will blow up into a reason why they're incompatible, right? Dave has very much that same mentality. And that's one of the reasons why I thought, and even their core group of friends, like GaTa is kind of like a Kramer. You have Emma is kind of like the Julia Louis-Dreyfus character. Of course, I'm blanking on all the characters' names from Seinfeld. Dave is kind of like Seinfeld, and Mike is kind of like George, But I thought how Seinfeld ended, where everything, all the things that the characters did over the seasons of Seinfeld all came back to haunt them. And at the very end, that's what I thought was going to happen in the show. But didn't happen. But Dave has that similar thing that Seinfeld and Costanza had, with just like finding small little imperfections in women, and that being the major red flag. Demanding perfection from everybody he works with. The documentary that Emma made really illustrated all of those things very well, I thought. And regretting his brand after seeing his fans. Like seeing the consequences of the work that he put out, and seeing how the work that he put out was received by people, and the types of people that were attracted to his work, and seeing how that made him want to change what he did. I thought that was amazing, especially the fact that those kinds of things, those themes were brought up in the horror episode in Mississippi, The Storm, in which they're staying at a very religious family's home. And in the same way, Dave's music is being used and interpreted by people like white supremacists, right? They taking the wrong meanings from the work he did, and using it to kind of further their agenda. You see that happening in American culture in 2023, where there are fundamentalist Christians, Christian nationalists, using religion as a way to be horrible people. And for Dave to see that kind of thing, to see his work being used by horrible people, or to be, celebrated by horrible people, is like regretful. So in some ways, Dave Burd wrote a story where he is God, where his words are being misinterpreted by the fans of his word. But of course, that is also and also the final episode of Dave, you have this super fan in Bella, who comes, obviously, first off, Brad Pitt in that episode was amazing. Him being locked in the booth, and at one, trying to motivate Dave to change the situation, but doing so through auto-tune and to the beat that's playing, and just how crazy that whole scene, that is one of the best scenes. That is one of the best scenes, where you have Brad Pitt in the booth saying motivational and inspirational things to Dave in order to convince him to get up and get the gun from Bella to take charge of the situation. Meanwhile, Bella's dancing with GaTa. She's dancing like she's high on Molly. GaTa is stoked because he thinks he's surrounded by people who follow their dreams and are motivated, and seeing how everything changes, especially once Brad Pitt crashes through that glass and gets shot. That is an insane episode, a great episode. But also how that episode, the things that Bella says to Dave, I am a superstar. I'm a superstar standing in front of you. I am the same person as you, Dave. And to hear Dave say all of those same things at the end of the episode when he finally meets Drake, saying all of the same things that Bella, the crazy fan, said, if is the only difference is the context. Like, the only reason Drake isn't insanely scared of Dave in that moment is because Drake is familiar with Dave's music and Dave has gained a level of popularity. But if Dave was just starting out and he went up to Drake and said all of those same things that he said to Drake, that Bella said to him, if he told Drake that, Drake would be like, this guy, okay, good for you, dude. He would want to get away from Dave as soon as possible, right? But just the changing of context makes all of those same, both instances, her saying it to Dave and Dave saying it to Drake, still disturbing. Still like, it's still like Dave saying those things to Drake is like, I mean, it's a little much, bro. But the context between that is that Dave is like, you know, at least legitimized in some way for saying those things. But I loved how in that final episode it really mirrors these two like people who are saying the same things, but like just they're different levels, and just how those levels can drastically change. Also, if Drake had been a little concerned, I don't think Dave would have pulled a gun on him and then forced him to to get him a record deal or something like that. But maybe if he was earlier on in his career and he had a gun, like you could see almost Dave being Bella in certain situations. Almost. She's definitely a little bit more unhinged. But a great show. The last episode with Brad Pitt was amazing. The Met Gala was great. A lot of great cameos. Was constantly waiting for that ripcord to be pulled. The one aspect of this show, a lot of like kind of loose ends, right? We don't see what happened to the aftermath of the Met Gala when everything, all the crashing and burning. We only got a little bit of his parents. I mean, I guess we got a little bit of Benny Blanco. Not a whole lot of Benny Blanco. We did get a little bit of Allie, a good amount. We got to meet Dave's first love in Harrison Avenue. Trying to think of any other parts of this show. The headphone guy in the R.I.P. Lil Dicky, was expecting that to come back. Like, there's a lot of things I was expecting to come back and bite him in the ass that just didn't. But yeah, a great season. I hope they do more. I love this show. I love these characters, despite the fact that Dave he's unlikable but adorable at the same time. Like, I see a lot of myself in Dave, and I like to see my neuroses and all my faults being represented on TV, so that's great. But I do love this show. Hope there's more. And the way they ended it, it could be the very end, right? It could just be, if they do continue it, it could be just a lot more Dave and a lot less of everybody else, which is okay too, because even in like this season, like the final episode where it's primarily Dave, I mean, you can still have those agree to throw these characters in here and there. I don't know. I love the show. I really hope they do more. Because, I mean, the next one would be, okay, what does he do with Drake? And, like, did Drake, like, have enough of Dave? Like, was it a bad idea for Drake to invite him to Africa? Right? Did Dave get left in Africa? Right? First episode of season 4 is out of Africa. Right? Dave trying to run a coffee plantation in Africa, but it burns down, so he leaves to go back to Hollywood. I don't know. But it's, each season's like him elevated to a new status, so we'll see. And it would be nice to see, like, what happens with GaTa and the Nut House thing. You know, even though, like, the last episode where GaTa brings up, like, are you pranking me, Dave? Asking if Dave is pranking him, asking if all of everything is, like, staged for the Nut House show. And there was a moment where I was like, if this show turns into Brad Pitt and this woman Bella, like, in order to punk Dave and GaTa for this show, it's going to be a crazy, massive swing, but also I probably wouldn't like it. Thankfully, it wasn't that, but man, there was a moment where I was like, is that where this show is going? Is that where this episode is going? But it didn't. Anyway, Dave, season 3, great show. Thank you for tuning into this episode of The Ray Taylor Show. I hope you enjoyed my thoughts on Dave season 3, as well as Dave the entire show. Don't forget to tune in every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for more movie and TV show reviews, and join the conversation by leaving a comment or rating on your favorite podcast platform or over on youtube.com/inspireddisorder if you're watching this. Until next time, enjoy the show. New episodes of The Ray Taylor Show come out every single day. Subscribe on YouTube and everywhere our podcasts are found. Binge the full week over at inspireddisorder.com/plus. Buy Ray Taylor Show merch over at inspireddisorder.com. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Peace out!
Today is the day where you wake up and you realize that everything that you've been dreaming about, everything that you've been wanting, every goal and wish and hope that you've ever had can become real. Dreams can come true. What you manifest in your mind, you can bring to reality.